Hi all, my name is Harvey Harvey for short, and this is a drawing video. Within the past few months, the internet has been taken over by the amazing Digital Circus, which is an indie animated show on YouTube for those who don't know. It focuses on an eclectic cast of characters whom I enjoy all of them. But for over a month, I hadn't taken any Digital Circus content, so I thought it'd be fun to do this challenge of drawing some characters from memory. Now, I have a very poor memory. I have a very hard time remembering how characters look. So, we'll see if this ends up being fun. So to start things off, I kind of chose them at random, so we are actually starting here with Bubble. So at the start of all of these drawings, what I start with is these general, very brief descriptions of the character designs. For Bubble, of course, I have here that they are a bubble, that they are smiley, have sharp teeth, and have these very smaller kind of eyes, which is, of course, reminiscent to the original design, but as we can see in a moment, my initial thought process is it takes some turns. I do also really like how the bottom image I have there of that sketch, of how that looks, it kind of comes across a bit like a version of Boo from Super Mario, which was not at all my intention, but I do kind of like that design. And then with this main bubble that I have on the side here, I'm doing this sketch for, this top lip, as we can see there, I just got rid of. You know, just work on your art or destroy it. You don't always need to keep things that you think are important. So this final design is the actual design I ended up going with, which I am kind of pleased with. And I do like how I did the teeth. They do look a little demented. And now we're kind of going in with the inking. And once again, the inking is very similar to how I had for the actual kind of pencil and the sketching. Now we're going with this blue, a little bit of the white kind of highlight, and more of the dark blue in the eyes, a little bit of more kind of designs there, and we are wrapped up into the final piece here. And this is the final version of my rendition of Bubble, which, to be honest, looking at the original, originally how Bubble is looking like, mine is very different. Mine does look like a Boo, but is a bubble. So very, very different feeling. But I do feel what I've created is a completely wholly new character. Like, this is so far detached from who Bubble is. So I am actually very proud of this. And looking at these, these two things separately, it's a little jarring that, like, I was trying to create this character, but now I have this. But I'm very happy with what I have, to be honest. I'm very, very happy. And now we're going to move on to Kinger, and from what I remember of the character, they are a giant chess piece. They have these long, flowing royal king robes, and they got these big, huge old googly eyes on top, like lopsided, with these sporadic hands that follow. And I really love how these cute, like, doodle sketches of Kinger are coming out on the bottom. He's just, just a silly character, just a silly guy. And I just also really love just this, I love this kind of look I give him where he's just completely paranoid, freaking out. From memory, that's what I kind of also remember Kinger from the actual episode. So now we're kind of going in with the sketch, kind of doing more refined looks of it. I kind of wish I made the eyes a little bit bigger, just more like cartoony and wild. But I am really happy with how this kind of turns out. And as we'll be seeing here for quite some time, I spend a while on these, like, slinky arms. Because I wanted them to look, like natural in a way. They're slinky arms. But to make, like, the spring and the curve of all of them seem less kind of like there's kinks in them, just to feel more flowing together and more realistic. So we will see through multiple attempts that ends up going on here. I also did kind of chain on the front to kind of keep the robe, especially with the trim there, kind of all hooked together. That was kind of a fun kind of look to it. And once just kind of finishing going in more, now kind of adding more of a little bit of shape to the trim of the robe, to where kind of looking more definition to where it doesn't feel like it's a big lopsided marshmallow that is the trim of the robe, and make it feel actually more like it has some elements of texture. Not much, but some. And I pause on that, go back to a little bit of the head, work on that, then pop back on down here, working more on the trim. And usually my sketches don't really go for this long. This I did multiple layers of multiple sketches, so I had lots of things I was adding in here, finishing up the trim, and then we're going to hop right up into the actual rest of the robe, and then we're going to focus on these slinky arms again, and try to make them somewhat okay. I do like the end result, but the process I went through to try to get the most normal seeming slinky arms felt so mundane and constant. I was going to go into slinky arms. You may have seen just a little blip there. That was me wanting to possibly do the thing like, I know a lot of like royal robes in the white of the trim, the collar. They have like those black dots on there. I was trying to do that, but I couldn't make it look like it wasn't like specks of dirt on there. So I just washed that out, just didn't do anything with it. So now we're hopping in with, finally, we are in the inking. So kind of focus mainly on the head first. As you all know, I like to focus on the head first when it comes to the inking, because that is that focal point with my drawings mostly. Gotta make sure that face works. So working on the inking of, got the coat, the trim, working on the arms now. And yeah, just mainly working on the arms. And I think after the arms, I'm going to shoot right into the color. So just quickly kind of rushing over the color here, making it look as proper and nice of how I want it to look, as fully as I can. And now we are at the end here, and as you can see, this is my final kind of design of my version of Kinger. I'm very proud of how this came out. I do kind of wish there's some things I tweaked with it, like I'd like if the purple of the coat was a little bit darker, more of a deeper royal purple, kind of a more regal. Other than that, I really like how this design came out. I love my spring arms. I think the final way they came out looked great. I like the design of the addition of that kind of shading of this purple on the collar. I like that to kind of give it more feeling and life to that. And I also really like the little kind of like the glitter moments I added in the color as well. I think it just works really well. And when you look side by side with how Kinger actually is, he's a bit different, but I think there's still a lot, like way too many similarities, as opposed to, Bubblehead, like none. This, I think, really is just like a prototype version of Kinger, how mine looks. And I'm really proud of how this came out. I really like how this came out. And lastly, we move from Kinger to Gangle. So Gangle's notes, I just have a sad theater mask, kind of this red ribbon body, and just always having this air of constantly being depressed and what was me and what's the point of anything in the world. So as you can see from these cute little sketches I did briefly, I kind of went very heavy into that depressed kind of what's the point in doing anything, the world is on fire, which I kind of always have that attitude in my head anyways, so I very much was having a lot of fun with doing Gangle, and I really like these designs I was doing. This initial one where Gangle was kind of like really super short, I hated that, so I did extend them up a little bit, then had to cut them down, so now we're kind of moving on into this fun, messy ribbon styling I want to do for this body, which is kind of what I end up going with. I do a lot more refining of the ribbons and of the shape that I want to do. I do angle the head down a bit just to show more. I want really to be angling and looking down to the floor, and also changing these arms to kind of have them up higher towards like, oh my gosh, just a paranoid kind of feeling. So now we're kind of working more, a little bit trying to make the ribbon feel a bit more cohesive and lifelike of how maybe string or ribbon might be bending and curving. There are certain parts of this too, where of the shaping of the ribbon, which I do completely cut out and I don't like how they look, But for the moment, these are still kind of here. I do kind of like how this kind of looks. So we go, as I usually do for my sketches, gotta go back with the face. Face is the focal point. Gotta make sure that's working. So going back to the, the mask for Gangle, and now gonna work back into the broken mask and the other arm, making sure those work, especially with the sizing of those, and they look quite like they fit together with Gangle as a whole. And now going in and replacing just the simple line art of the sketch with actual how I'm gonna have the ribbon look and how it's gonna be folding and bending with the arms, and then now folding and bending with the body. And as we can see with the I guess like the movements of the sketching I'm doing for the ribbon and how I am erasing bits of the ribbon, I really want it to feel like it is folding and looping and going in on itself and covering itself up that way, because I wanted it to feel not that the ribbon of the body is just is not like looping, or that it is looping, but that it's not just piled on top of itself as for the body, to really feel that it is interwoven with the body, that it is this whole thing where when Gangle moves and it's Gangle walking, the whole thing is moving along and is kind of moving all together like a gelatinous jello monster, or like a little bit, I don't know a good explanation for how I want it to look. But as I was doing with Kinger, those arms took forever. This body takes forever to really get this sketch down of how I want this to look. We're finally coming near the end of the sketch for the ribbon. Kind of going up with that curly Q tail for the end of the body. That I really like how the tail of the curl of that kind of ends up coming out. So working a little bit with the arms and a little bit with the mask, making sure those are present in this version of the sketch. And then have a little bit of that on the bottom to make sure the bottom of Gangle's body is completely flat, because I want to make sure that is completely flat. I just like to make sure that stuff's kind of lined up. So now, as we're seeing, it's going with the inking. So I already got the inking done with the face, the shape of the mask, and the broken mask, and the shape of the eyes and the mouth. So obviously we're going now with the inking of the ribbon body, which is going to take a while to get through that, just like it did for the sketching. But this is, when I do my inking, for those who have noticed, it takes me a while because I can never draw any straight line ever, and when I do my inking, I will like them to be as straight or as together and uniform as possible. So it takes me a little bit to get that. So now we're going to get into the colors. We can see, of course, the red ribbon, the white the face, a little bit of the orange in the background to make it pop, and this elements of gleaming and shading happening on the ribbon to make it feel more lived in and unique and alive. And now we have our final piece, and I am very, very happy with how Gangle turned out. Gangle is probably the one I'm most happy with. Kinger's right behind it, and Bubble's probably at the end. Sorry, Bubble. But this, I'm really happy with how this came out. Especially looking this side by side, I see a lot of where I got the comparison correct. And I see some things like, well, I don't know where I got this weird amorphous body from, when it's very much just like the arms and the legs, because there's legs, not this weird slug body. So I do really like that comparison, but I do really like how mine came out. I'm a real big fan of that. But looking at all these here, like I said, I'm really proud of how these came out. I would like to do this again in the future, as long as I forget how these other characters look. I'd love to do some where I do like Pomni and Jax and Ragatha and Kane and Zubul and other characters. So it was a delightful time. So I hope you all enjoyed watching this. I hope maybe this kind of inspired you to maybe do your own renditions of Digital Circus characters, or just get into Digital Circus. It's a great show. It's really fun, and I think it's just gonna be a really fun thing to see develop over time too. But please let me know what you think about my designs. Please let me know what you think about this video. Please leave me a like, a comment, subscribe if you can. I'd really appreciate it. Give a share, let people know about this video. And until next time, I will see you all later. Goodbye.